Well, hello everyone. I hope the apocalypse is treating you well. Rather than do a list building video this week, or this episode, we brought in some qualified reinforcements to give us some tactical advice. Um, Dennis, aka Tokra, current world champion, is joining us to talk about Separatist and Galactic Republic squadrons.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here.
Lovely to have you. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to take a look at the various squadrons and we're going to get Tucker's opinion on them, and I might chime in with some suggestions which may or may not be grounded in reality. We'll see what the story is. But yeah, I think if we start off with the Galactic Republic, seems like the shinier of the two because droids I'm still having problems telling apart at the moment. It's just so hard. It's like the imperial problem of, they all have masks except they don't have actual names, they've just got letters. But sure, if we start and we just go through them in order they are in Fleet Builder. Or would you
Okay.
prefer to do them by hull? What works best for yourself, Dennis?
Just go from top
From top.
for forever. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got Ahsoka first anyway. So we'll be doing a good number of Aether sprites. Um, she's 23 points is about the cost of all of these Aether sprite Jedi's, roughly. Well, it's the lower end.
They're rather expensive. Look expensive.
Yeah, particularly at that level of 4 hull.
With the scatter token, it can be quite a lot, like the Imperial ones with the TIE fighters.
Yeah, my only thought on that is like the TIE fighters are maybe 8 points cheaper.
Yes, yes.
So you're like, because scatter can go wrong very quickly. I'm surprised they didn't use any of the dodge keywords in addition, but maybe that would have just made them unkillable.
Might be a bit strong with dodge and scatter token. It could
Yep.
be really a bit too much.
But
It's
what are
already
your
hard enough with the synergies.
yeah? And like we've already seen with Marek and inbuilt synergies on one squadron how much damage that thing can do.
Yes, indeed.
So what are your thoughts on everybody's favorite Padawan anyway?
She looks nice. The biggest problem with the new squadrons is that you have only 4 uniques, so you have to choose really carefully which one to choose.
And do you think
Um,
she'd make it into your pack?
she has a good possibilities with the extra attacks, but she's missing some synergies with others, like the some of the others we are coming to later. Have.
Yeah, the only real synergy she has is with Anakin, eh, because he's just the Adept 2 ones. He's cheap enough to put her in there, and maybe it is kickback where he can use her attack and then move and kind of get mini cloak out of it.
Yeah.
But I don't think that like you could put in fighter coordination teams on a consular to move her an extra time, but it's very finicky and they're moving so fast normally to stay alive. Yeah, you get too much synergy out of it. Then the cut price Jedi. What are your thoughts on Anakin?
He's really cheap. That's the biggest bonus, I think. And the adapt with the rerolls is really, really nice because you can get quite a lot of damage from this.
Yeah, well,
I'm not sure about the effect. The effect is so nice, but not sure if this one is triggering. So
I suppose like the thing is if you compare him to somebody like Keelan Farlander, who has a weaker kind of reroll as Adept 2 and doesn't get the kind of mini intel that he's got going on. But then again, Cian Farlander also hasn't been seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Um, but the
And you do not see him so often anymore. So
yeah, I don't think he's been seen since Jan showed up and Bomber Command Center. So cheap, but that's your main thought on himself. Uh, what about Axe? How do you find him?
yeah, a squadron with an evade token. That's really interesting. Um, but I've already noticed in the Clone Wars tournament that many ships have red anti-squadron dice right now. So the evade token is becoming really interesting.
Yeah, like particularly against those munificents who just tear apart squadrons. Um, absolutely tear them apart with LTTs and
But in
various
this
other
case,
things.
the effect with the damage reduction is really insane. So for 70 points, he's really cheap. I mean, the normal for 19 costs 12 points. Okay.
Yeah,
But he's cheap for his effects. And the effect to mitigate damage, to reduce the damage, is really helpful.
yeah. No, I mean the thing is, particularly in a torrent ball, his only problem is that he has escort as well, and he can be targeted first. But then again, he's using the braces to reduce the damage on himself. He
Yeah.
can, and particularly with other effects, he can kind of like implacable. Then can just he spent his defense tokens, he's vulnerable, and then implacable goes. Except he's not that vulnerable. No, he.
And you can, hmm?
Go
You
ahead.
can always hide text on the obstacles. So obstructed and brace token, and suddenly the evade is caught as triggering again for others. So if you can hide him on obstacles, he's really strong.
Yep. And like you said, he's a good cost, you know. So like
Yeah,
he's one of the more solid. Um, then we've Kickback. It's the same hull, 1 point cheaper, but his ability doesn't seem
yeah.
that
Uh,
great.
I'm not so. I don't find him this good in compared to the others because his effect is really not so strong.
Like he is a double brace escort, but for the same cost, you'll get a torrent and a, reserve hangar deck. So yeah,
Yeah, but the problem is with the four uniques. There are better uniques right now than him.
yep,
So
he just doesn't seem to make the slot. Uh,
yeah,
and if I'm going through these too fast, let me know. Kit Fisto, scatter but not scatter.
yeah. I was also surprised that he don't has the scatter token, but his effect is really nice to just prevent 3 damage. So you can last really long.
And like, how common do you think? Like, Astro Tactics seems to be all over the place. Um,
I mean, he's the only one with Intel from the Republic. So this is also in, that has to be counted.
the only problem is 26 points for 4 hull.
Yeah, the coast is really it's the highest one right from the Republic.
And I think that isn't that the highest cost 4 hull squadron in the game.
That might be.
I like
Yeah, not so many points. So
I think it's the highest cost 4 hull or 5 hull squadron in the game even. I think to get something more expensive, you've got to hit like uh, a Hera or a Lando or a Hera or a Han Solo, really. Um, that's the only thing. I haven't done enough testing with it. Have you managed to get in any Clone Wars games with them in it?
didn't play against or with Kit Fisto so far because he main problem he's really expensive.
Yeah. Um, the adept 2 and the counter 2 generally means he'll be doing the damage, but like his main ability seems like be handing out the intel, and if you're spending 26 points on your intel squadron before you start anything else, and he's not even bomber, like he
I mean,
seems to be.
Dengar's only 20 points and he's better.
Yep. Um. So yeah, it seems like he'd be hard to build around.
Yes,
Suppose we better get to a good Jedi then. Balance this guy out. So
maybe the best from the 8.
you think she's better than Plo Koon, yeah?
These two are most likely you will see in nearly all lists, I guess.
And which.
Luminara and Flo will be in everyone.
Yeah. Well, it's just torrents are so good, and these two just do so much for him. Which is your preferred of the two, I suppose, the question.
Good question because they are really similar. But most likely the Luminara has a good bonus with the non-uniques.
Yeah.
The obstruction means always less damage.
Yep. And like the torrents are hard enough to kill as it is. Um,
Yeah.
and it kind of means that she can jump in. And while counter 2 is nice on Plo Koon, and the adept 2, neither of them, if either of them are using their own counter, that you're already in trouble.
Yes. You
But
don't want to use your counters.
but still, like they're probably the Jedi I've seen the most used. Um, what have we got after Lunara? So oddball, like
Hard to say. I have no idea what to think about him. So
yeah, like he's a bomber with 2 blue bomber dice, but his own bomber command center kind of rolled in, but he doesn't move that fast. But he is 7 hull with a brace.
yes, and then evade.
Yep. So he's gonna take a good long time to kill while he's countering you the whole way down. But I don't know, part of me thinks he'd be better off with 2 braces than the evade. 'Cause I don't think flak is gonna do that much to him. But it's hard to know. Again, he's very expensive. He's like the arcs are 15 points, and he's 8 additional points above that. Which, say again?
That's quite a lot for just unique. No, normal are 5 more.
Yeah. So,
Luminara is 6 point more.
and do you need the rule rolls on the blue bomber dice? You know, all that often. Uh,
Yes, I think the rerolls are really nice, but the other Jedi have it built in with the depth.
yeah, exactly. So clones getting the short end of the stick again, I think.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, like he seems very survivable. He seems like those. He seems like a Keenan Farlander, to be honest. you know,
another
um,
one.
which is kind of unfortunate. And
Yeah.
I think it's unfortunate that the everything that isn't an Ether sprite only has one hero version. Um, but then again, it's nice to get a bunch of Jedi's at the start. So it is. It's kind of very cool. Um, so we already covered Plo. So then it's if we start with the let's start with the worst. Or maybe I'm wrong, but is the Ether Sprite the worst generic squadron or not?
I would say so. Yes, it's really expensive. And okay, the dodge is okay, is nice, can be good, but no, I find it too expensive. I find them too expensive for what they're doing.
And
But they can press out quite a lot of damage. So
yeah, and even with even if they're protected, you're not getting the value out of dodge, which is the confusing thing for me.
and the
Uh,
counter.
yeah. So that means then that you're sending them in without escorts, but then you're paying 17 points to either get them killed or then you're spending more points to keep them safe. But they will consistently hurt other squadrons, but for
Yeah,
two
if
of
you
them,
compare them to the A-wing,
say again?
if you compare the Delta 7 to an A-wing, what's most likely the same, you're paying 6 point more for only one die more. So no, I'm not convinced.
And no black.
Against the yes, it's also missing.
But then you've
But they have a blue with adapt, so
it's
about
probably
the same.
better. Or is it the
Yes,
same? Is it?
it should be the same, quite about the same.
Yeah. But the A-wing is a lot cheaper, a lot cheaper. So,
Faster.
yep. Oh yeah, it's even faster. It just doesn't seem to stack up. The arcs. There seems to be a lot of division on these ones. What are your thoughts?
They look like the B-wings. They are really slow, a lot of hull, and a good roll against ships. The damage against ships can be quite good.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I've seen them rip some stuff apart. Um,
Yeah.
I've even seen one person put them in the opponent's deployment zone with the rings, and that person was me, and did not enjoy arcs on top of my ships as they were deploying. It was disconcerting. But
They're
yeah,
quite, but after all, they're slow, and that's maybe their biggest problem.
yep. Now, if we know that like the Pelta has been pictured for the clones, so if that has a fleet command slot and all fighters follow me, it might be the natural home. And if it has a support slot, then fighter coordination. See, these things moving at speed 4 kind of scared the living Jesus out of me, to be honest. Um,
This one, this one with Bomber Command Center can put out quite a lot of damage.
yep. And I don't know with you, but for me, it's easier to get a consular where you want it than a flotilla, even because that
Yeah.
nav chart, the speed 4, it's just fantastic. And then we have the B Wing that got stolen from the rebels, but is slightly better, but is the same points cost.
Yeah. Yeah, he's better anti-squadron attack for the same cost. So what can you say? It's cheap, really good hull squadron against ships.
Yep. And you throw one or two non-heavy squadrons, and rake of them can just tie everything up and keep them from murdering you. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think they just need bomber command center. Um,
But
and
excellent. They are better than the Rebel one for the same cost. So the Republic wiring is really nice.
yeah, it's a great chip. Now, in my opinion, the Torrent is the best squadron from
Yes,
the
yes,
wave.
I have to agree. It is basically an X-wing. Yeah, with the bonus of swarm.
Yep. Like it doesn't have the bomber, but who cares?
It has a black die, so it's the same as a red die.
Yep. Like it has slightly less hitting power in the anti-squadron fight, but it has that red dice, so sometimes it'll hit just as hard. And reserve hangar deck is just ridiculous
This is a
because
most likely big problem for him. Reserve hunger deck with this one is insane.
yeah, because you can take 4 torrents, Luminara and Plo Koon, and as long as you have some reserve hangar decks, well, it's going to take a long time to get through. Um,
Yes,
and if they bring no squadrons, well, you can't. You've still got that A-wing thing of I've got a black dice, you've got some hull, and I'm going to just hit you with 5 or 6 black dice. They'll only do 1 damage each, but that's going to count up. World
yeah.
champions have the first world championship was won with A-wing black non-bomber dice. But yeah,
Yeah. I remember it.
But so in terms of ranking, would we be saying torrents are the best, uh, closely followed it in combination with Luminara, then Plo Koon, then Axe, then you've got
Yes.
your Arcs and your B Wings with Anakin, then you've got Ahsoka, then you've got Kit, and then you everything else is kind of kickback and oddball and Delta Sprite are bringing up the pack.
I would agree. Basically, most lists you will see will with Plo, Luminara, most likely Torrents, and the last two squadrons are most likely random or own decisions. So
Yeah,
preference.
something like Anakin in there just to reliable
Yeah.
bomber. Cool. Sure.
Against Mandalorian Moose, I was playing. He was playing X. Was playing X. Yeah, he was playing X. Anakin, Luminara, Plo, and four Torrents. It was really a strong squadron ball.
And did you get much work out of Anakin?
No, Anakin was not used so often. So, but he was. I guess he was the only squadron you could put in for the points.
Yep, because his cost is fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Sure. Let's take a look at the old clankers and see our thoughts on these guys.
Tie variant.
So we'll start. Sure, we'll start at the start. So you ran Separatists in the Clone Wars tournament yourself, didn't you?
Yes, I tried it.
So Bactoid prototypes. So this is one of the two uh, character bombers. Uh, so
Yeah.
like, how useful do you think the ability on this one is?
The problem is that you have to. The problem with separatists is that you have to activate the squadrons via a ship, or they don't get the effect. So his effect is only working if you activate the squadrons via a ship to get the AI bomb battery.
Yep.
I'm not sure if it's helping so much to have an accuracy instead of a damage on a die.
Yeah. I suppose it's for those red dice that miss.
Quite
Um,
often,
but then again, what you like with a bomber swarm? You kind of want to burn out the tokens rather than accuracy them.
what squadrons can make use of it? It's the two uniques bomber, the two unique bombers, and the generic bomber, the droid bomber.
Yeah. There's not really a lot of choice,
No,
and
not many that can use it.
the thing is, if you have a bomber swarm, you need something to break through an opposing squadron line. And if you're
Yeah.
using up one of your unique slots on this guy, it's a hard sell. 16 points in scatter is fantastic, but yeah, I think you'll
I,
want
I,
space for. Go ahead.
I would like this bomber in a Sloan list. That would be really nice.
It might be a bit overpowered, just a small bit.
No.
Your opponents didn't like defense tokens anyway. Um, now the other hyena bomber, who's one more point expensive, but way to me it
Wait,
seems he's just so deadly.
yes, yes.
Like you could accidentally murder a small ship with this thing.
I was using this one in my list, and the effect is really insane. To roll three red dice against ships, really nice.
And if you've got the bomber command center backing that up, then it's just
Yeah, that was what I'm missing. I didn't have a bomber command center. Bomber command center, this is really beast.
And it's scatter as well, which is unusual on a dedicated bomber. So it's hard to just murder. It's good at dodge. It'll be better at dodging flak than most others. And it's only 17 points with a damage ceiling of 6 damage if everything goes right. Now you're unlikely to score 6, but
Yeah, but
it's
you're doing two or three damage. It's really possible.
yeah. And at that cost, it's just
Yeah,
getting it there.
and the fact is even working against other squadrons, and that's also nice. You're not using it against squadrons, but maybe you need this extra blue die.
Yeah. To just kill off, like if they have a small screen and you just need to kill that last squadron and then your bombers can go to town, then it's just excellent.
Really like it. It's really
So then we have DFS 311, the intel, the source of intel.
yeah.
Um, so it seems like an odd one. Um, but it does seem very, very hard to pin down if it's on an asteroid or something like that.
Yeah, he can with the reroll you can really reduce the damage quite a lot. So he might be nice, but yeah, with Intel also it's the only one with Intel in the separate list.
The only question is though, it just seems like a lot of points and it's very pillow fisted. So whether or not Intel is actually that much use anymore, like if you compare him to, okay, he's got scatter, but if you compare his abilities to the Intel squadrons in the older factions, he seems to me to be a little underpowered. Um, and because you've got no escort in this faction, it seems like he's 18 points on 3 hull with no real way to kill the opposing squadrons that are coming for him.
The missing escort was also something I noticed at the tournament. That it would be really nice to have escort at some time.
Yep. Um, uh, and I think this is the big issue with them. Like to me, it seems like if you take squadrons, you've got to have munificence pushing those squadrons or uh, pod thingies. What are they called? My brain. Hard cells pushing them all the time because you can't drift separatist squadrons in because they're so fragile, and the anti-squadron is or the anti-squadron and anti-ship AI are so needed. But I suppose the one
Yes,
thing is with munificence, you never really need to navigate. Would that be a fair assessment?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it,
So,
this one I feel is a bit eh. Um, uh,
this, so the three yeah, I'm not sure about it because the price is so high, and the effect is not so good. They're better squadrons, so let's say it this way.
yeah. Speaking of better squadrons, this is the early edition of Saber Squadron right here with
Yeah,
this 381. Um, yeah, I'd pay some points to add a scatter to Saber Squadron, no problem. With potentially better dice.
17 points is not really expensive for such a squadron.
Yep, and can't be obstructed when you've got Lunara and stuff like that. Um, and it really works well with the snipe ability, which is nice. And it's easily better than DFS 311. And who needs intel if you murder the opposing squadrons? Um, but yeah, pretty good for its points cost in the same realm as Shara, and you know, um, for murdering other squadrons. Maybe not as effective, but very good at kind of scalping stuff out. Um,
Yeah, and he is a good counter for Sienna Rhee as well.
yep. Oh, you think you're obstructed, do you?
Hmm.
Um, but speaking of squadrons that murder everything, how have you found Grievous?
He is insane. He is really insane. I was using him as well, and he was putting out so much damage, even against ships. The
Yeah,
effect is also working against ships, and that's really great.
it's like having a free bomber. Um,
Yeah,
and 22 points, he's like just for the sheer murdering of generic squadrons. Like the main problem they're going to have is torrent swarms, and he'll one shot a torrent sometimes, which is fantastic. Um,
yeah.
uh, I'm not so sure about screen how useful it is for them because like they just murdered like you've got vulture droids just exploding with one shot for anything that looks at them because they normally just get one bit of flak and something shoots it once and it's dead. So, but
He,
it's
because the other is not shooting on Grievous, so he may last longer this way.
yeah. Probably the deterrent at shooting them is more useful than the ability itself.
Yeah,
Um, I know if I've enough fighters though, I'll just go at him and hope for the best. You know, try and take him out fast. But if you have enough fighters to do that, do you really have enough bombers to follow it up? So I'm not sure a balanced squadron ball can afford to ignore what's screening him. But it still feels like escort would be a little bit better. But he's just so good, and he's such a good points cost as well. Um,
and the path black and to blue is really great. So the black can always roll double in this case. So he was really good in the games.
and the relay too is just fantastic as well.
Yeah. Yes.
Um,
So easy to get really four this way.
yep. And then because like the separatists their ships are very long range, um, and their squadrons move so fast. It's so easy to just get stuff out of command.
Yeah.
And it's not like the separatist ships are that fast at catching up either. But yeah, I think he's like him and DBS 404 are the two top aces, um, to my mind. Have you had much experience with the hard shell prototypes?
Yes, I was playing him as well. He's also really nice. The opponent is forced to look where he's moving. So if he is moving in and not attacking him, he's getting quite a lot of damage.
Yep,
I found him really nice for 16 points with this effect, and he will eat one or two attacks, so he can do two damage with this effect alone.
yep. And even like rolling a random red dice against ships can still be like just because they moved away. Um, and he's scatter and he's 16 points, so he's not that expensive. Um,
Yeah.
so and then we have the
One second, I missed him up. Hada was the one who can extra attacks.
yes,
Uh, I could use him really often against ships. Sadly, he did no damage because it's red die.
he did no
And the
damage.
effect will not trigger. The effect will not trigger against squadrons this often. So
Yep.
it's most likely for the ship effect. And for this, it was not this good.
Okay.
But
Uh,
the other one, the black, the
yeah, the one that's
three pointer.
named weirdly. Yeah,
Yes. Oh, well.
but they have to go in and kill him. Like he has to be the first thing to die.
Yeah.
Um,
But he is really the one where with the escort.
yep. And with the escort, he would be ridiculously good.
And
Um,
he was the one he could do quite a lot of damage because the opponent has to move in. the first attack will not kill him, so he will do 1, 2, maybe 3 damage alone with his attack. And the counter on top of it.
Yeah, he's fantastic and he's such a threat.
Yeah.
And I suppose the main thing is he'll take some attacks off your generics who are just so fragile that he might
Or
keep
from
them.
Grievous.
Yeah.
If Grievous and him next to each other, the opponent has to choose who he will attack.
And that's not a fun choice. And the counter
No.
2 is fantastic. The one of each color dice is really good on both of those aces. So sure, let's take a look at the generics. So what do you think of the Bell Bulb 22?
He has really good anti-squadron dice, and he has a relay. So you can get with 2 of them, and Grievous you have relay 4 for activating nearly everything on the table.
And do you think
But
that's
other than that, the screen effects are not used at all, I think. And the anti-ship attack, okay, it's a blue die, so nice.
yeah.
But I really like because they are flexible.
Yeah, and do you think they have enough kind of in them to, like, with 2 of them and Grievous to take out a small opposing squad screen?
Yes, I think so. For the cost of 3 of them, it's quite well. But I use them most likely for relay
Yep,
and against other squadrons because the 2 black and 2 blue they're really good damage.
yep. So then the generic Beach Ball of Doom.
Yeah, it's a TIE interceptor,
Yep.
straight directly.
I think if it wasn't for reserve hangar decks, we wouldn't see it as much. But reserve hangar decks again,
Yeah,
just gives them. It means that you don't get wiped out by the first wave, and they're
yeah.
counter 2. But I don't think they have the same kind of joy as the torrents with the same thing. But they're
It's,
definitely solid.
the torrents are better, but they cost a bit more. But basically, the Tree Fighter is a TIE interceptor. Same speed, same hull. The dice are a bit better because the black against ships and the theoretically also 4 dice against squadrons. Swarm and counter, they're TIE interceptors.
Yep. Um, and then we'll look at the other. We'll look at the TIE Fighter then.
Yeah.
I think the red dice, the anti-ship dice, is at 8 points is interesting. But if you're building a list, which do you kind of favor? Do you favor the Tri-Fighter or the Vulture?
Hard to say. I would say the TIE Fighter. Because the black die is always working. And the TIE Fighter are a little bit better against squadrons.
Yep.
But the Vulture Druid has a bonus with a black die. You can add another black die with a AI anti-squadron. So you have 2 black and the blue against squadrons with Swarm.
Yeah.
This is quite interesting.
Yeah, and is it the only generic with black anti-squadron dice?
Yeah.
Wait,
No, the Bellahor.
oh yes, of course. But yeah, it's just they're so cheap to have black anti-fighter dice. But yeah,
Like the TIE Fighter. 3 hull, no defense tokens.
yeah, and
Dying really fast.
they just disappear. And then lastly, we have the Hyena Bomber, which has the greatest damage potential of any generic squadron
For
against
11,
ships.
for these points, he is really insane against ships. If you have a bomber command center, 2 red die is really nice. And with 4 hull, they are lasting at least a little bit longer than the other generic fighters.
Yep. No, it just seems fantastic. But again, you do want to be commanding them. But it's pretty much the same with all the separatist squadrons. So if we were ranking them, would we say Grievous, uh, DB 404, and
And yeah,
Flak are the top? Then
yes,
kind of the Dis and
distant Howard next.
yeah, and then DFS and Backtide, kind of the end of the spectrum
Yes,
for the heroes, and then probably you've between. Would you say the Belbelub or the Hyena would be higher ranked?
on the generics.
Yep,
The 22, the Starfighter, I guess, because his anti-squadron dice are so nice.
cool. And then probably the Hyena, then the Droid Tie Fighter, and then the Vulture. Um,
Yeah,
but no, yeah, they're a lot different. And there's a lot to learn. But yeah, no, tis interesting to go through them all. So it is, because there's some stuff that I didn't think of while we were talking. Um, but no, like there's a lot of possibilities to still be explored. Like both of us, there's a lot of squadrons that we haven't played with yet. So it's kind of fun opening up a new box of surprises about way that things are, because I know everyone's kind of focused in on the squadrons they run with the older factions, but the new factions is just kind of a whole load of new toys to play with is always good.
with the old squadrons, you have more flexibility. You have more choices that you can pick, but the limit of 4 unique squadrons is really limiting your possibilities. So I think the new squadrons will bring a lot of potential to the game.
Yep, yep.
A lot of new ways.
By the way, have you found a favorite Clone Wars module that you like to put into a fleet yet?
No, not yet.
Still working on the spreadsheets. But
Yeah.
listen, um, thanks for coming on today. Hopefully, we'll do another one of these if you're up for it once we've played a couple more games and had a bit more time to get to grips with the Clone Wars or anything else like that. But is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up for the evening?
No, only thanks for having me. Thanks for the nice talk.
And sure,
With
hopefully
all
we
the
do it again.
lockdown, it's really nice to talk others.
A nice break, all right, from normal life to have a chat about this. But listen, thanks for coming on,
Yeah.
and sure, if we might do it again, if people enjoy it, and if we have a bit of crack another Friday night again. Thanks again, Dennis. And if people are looking for a list to be built, just stick it in the comments, and we'll do our best for you. All right. Good luck.
Thank you. Goodbye.